Welcome back to my channel. If your SQL queries are slow, unreadable, and crash your database, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you 5 pro tips that is going to instantly improve your SQL writing, boost your performance, and make your life easy. So stop writing the bad queries. Let's fix them right now, right here. Bad SQL queries can lead to slow performance, high server cost, and poor user experience. Writing clean and optimized SQL is a must have skill for data analysts, backend developers, and the DBA. So, if you are one of them, please watch this video till the end. So, let us discuss the very first tip, that is tip number one. Always select only what you are required, not everything. So let me show you an example of a bad SQL. So here if you see, I have got the customer table. Now instead of this particular specific columns, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to run SQL which is going to return all this particular column. Now these columns are not required as of now. I might not require the last name. I might only require the first name over here. Or importantly, let's say the customer ID. I have not required this age or which country it belongs to. So I will only select those specific columns which are right. I require. So here what I will do. So instead of firing a query which is all the columns of that particular table, I will be only getting that particular specific columns over here. Now in this way, why it will matter is that it is going to reduce your data transfer from the database memory to your memory in your location. It is going to avoid the unnecessary memory usage. So it is going to make use of less memory, and it is going to help you with the indexed optimization as well. So you can actually use this in a better way so that your SQL returns in an optimized way. So make sure you apply this in your real world project. One bonus tip over here I would like to give you here is that, so instead of writing the exact table, you can actually write some, let's say the ally's name over here. So instead of this, let's say I wanted to keep very short, so here cust, and then what you can do, you can actually keep this particular name and then age. So instead of this, if you have multiple queries, then you are, let's say two tables are having the same ID, so which one particular identity has to be identified with this particular ally's name. So if I run this particular query, this will again return those only two specific queries. Okay, also if you want, you can actually keep this name as first name age. Now you see here, you can clearly name this and keep it. So it will be very beneficial for you to understand for yourself, else also the person who is going to come after you. Let's discuss the tip number 2. Always use the where clause very wisely. Now earlier we discussed that instead of this, let's say you are writing all of this particular and returning those. So here what is happening, you are not having any select clause over here. Where clause, you are not restricting your number of rows which is returning from the database. So you are trying to load everything from the database, every column from the database. So this is very bad way to write it. So the better way is to always have this particular in combination with this particular column specific. What you can do, you can actually say here in the where clause, let's say I want only the persons whose age is younger than 30. Okay, so if I run this, only those columns custom.age, let's say, let me keep it as 29 over here. Now if you see here, this particular column, okay, this is, let me comment this because this is running again over here, two queries are getting run up. Now if you take a look at this, if I run this, you will see only those particular rows are returning, that to specific data. I am only trying to retrieve this. Now this is one of the better way to write it. Why? Because it is going to filter your unnecessary rows which are there early. Okay, so only that particular filtered row will be coming, and then it will be showing in the result instead of loading everything and then filtering or later on, right? So that is less data being transferred. It is quick to show the result, very fast to show the result. Also it is very better to use for the indexed columns as well. So very better way to write this. Now if you want to do some better, I will let me give you one bonus tip over here. You always avoid the functions on that particular index column over here in the where clause. So here if you see, let's say you want to have in this, let's say in this particular column, you see here there is age over here. So in this particular here, what you can do, instead of writing uh, let's say you have a year over here, so let's say it had a column of year over here. Okay, now in this, instead of writing a year of, let's say, the group function what we use it over here, okay, and then specifying the exact, let's say 2025. So over here if you specify this particular thing and applying a group function on this particular year table column, then it is going to give an overhead for you. So always avoid applying the grouping functions or avoiding functions on the top of the indexed columns. So always use that. So what, instead of this, what you can do, you can use a, let's say in this only now. So instead of this, let me write in the next row for you. I will just comment this for you. Now instead of this, what you can do, you can say this year in between. Okay, so here you can actually mention this 2023 only, but in another way, let's say you are trying to say 2025 01 which is the 1st January, and it has to be between, that is 2025 12 and 31. So that is going to be only coming data between these 2 years only, the date range, and everything will be included in this. So here you are not applying the group by function on this. So there will be no extra thing will be overhead for the SQL to be written, because group by takes group by some columns, the whatever you write, right, average functions or the columns on that, it is going to take unnecessary load, unnecessary processing. And then let us discuss about the tip number 3. You have to know your index columns. So indexes are always going to increase your speed upon the select columns. It is going to slow down inserts and updates, but definitely whenever you are going to retrieve something from the database, it is going to retrieve it very fast in a very speedy way. So one pro tip over here is that index columns used in the where clause, in the join or an order by clause. So always use those, and also always avoid over indexing. So it can also hurt your performance when you are writing the query. So always try to check what exactly this particular column indexes are like. Don't try to overly create the indexes on particular one single table which even doesn't require that, or which doesn't have that particular data. So don't try to just forcefully create indexes. Wherever it is required, then only it is created. So here one more thing what you can do is here, so instead of this particular, let's say this customer table is there, what I can do, I can actually write one explain select customer and run this. If you see, okay, now if you see, this is going to show you everything details about that particular column. Now you see this is P1 comment, whatever is calling the transaction, how many things has happened, result row, it is showing 5 of them. So there are how many columns? Zero, you see here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 columns are there, right? All this information will be coming with this particular details of explain. So you can use that. So let's say you're trying to create an index on one of the column. Okay. So here, let's say you're trying to create an index. Let's say I'm trying to create an index on customer customer ID. Okay. So what I will do? Cust ID. Now on which table I'm using? The customer, and then I have to specify the column name over here. Now let me comment this for you here. If I run this, let us see if it is creating an index. It has successfully created the index. So in this way you can actually apply the indexes to retrieve your query fast. And also if there are lot of data in your tables, then this will actually improve your performance. When you're writing a complex query also, it will help you to include those in the where condition and also search those data. Let's check out the tip number 4, that is always avoid the subqueries in a select clause or a where clause wherever you can. Okay, so let us take an example of the bad SQL query where you are writing an SQL query. Along with that, you are trying to write a subquery over here. Now let me take the first name. Okay, now I'm trying to select the first name. Then what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to, let's say, select count, and then from the other table, let's say I'm trying to count the customer ID, right? So here from the order table, I am going to check where the customer underscore ID, is equal to user ID, right? So user ID, I will actually select the customer ID. So same thing over here only, I will keep it over here. Now instead of this particular orders ID over here, now let me try to add as an count over here. So order count. Now from which table I am going to take this? From the customer. So I am going to take this customer over here and I'm trying to run this, let's say. Now you see here, every count over here, it is coming John 5, everything is coming over here. So it is coming over here. So customer dot. Okay, now you see here, it is giving the correct output. So John had two of them, right? So it had two of them. If you see here, the first name John, there are two of them. The customer ID is 1 and 4. If you see here, this is mapped to it. Okay, so here if you see the order the key, and it is going to be two of them, that is mouse and the keyboard over here, and rest everything are one over here. 1, 2, and 3 are here, but the customer ID, if you see, if you map it with this customer ID number 4, that is John. Now John, you see it is having two of them, right? So that is the reason it has got both of them, and it is going you showing you better. Now why it matters over here is that this SQL joins, let us see, like, what is the better way to do this. Now this is very wrong way to do it. The better way to do is select. So let's say I'm giving the use as first name. Now instead of this, you can directly count it over here. So here actually let me give alias as O, and then let me type customer underscore ID over here. Okay, now from user, let's say the customers, let's say C. Now I have to apply a left join over here. So I will see orders O. I have to apply on which of them now? I have to apply on O dot customer ID is equal to, so here C dot customer ID. So this is going to be the join. Now I am going to group by over here. So it is going to be C dot first underscore name. Now let me try to run this and see. Now you see here, let me just comment this particular SQL so that it shows you. Now you see here, John is having 3 of them, the count. So it is going to match up with this particular column ID over here. So of course there are, based on the name actually it has come. Let's say if I remove the name and then I put the last name over here. Now you see here Joe T, right? So here it is going showing you that particular value. Now let's say if I put it with the age also, just see what will the result will come. Now you see here it is coming like that. Okay, so I hope I was able to explain you properly how to use this count function using the help of the subquery over here, how to avoid the subqueries basically. So you can use join and the group by over here to achieve that same functionality. Here if you take a look, it is going to, joins are more efficient when it compared to the subquery. Also subqueries can run into an n times run that particular each row. So let's say for these each row it can call n number of times. So this will be an overhead for the SQL query, because let's say there are 1,000 rows at the high level, and then underneath there are, for each of this particular row there are around 10, 20, 30 rows for each of them. So it will first query that first row, and then it will query then this particular 10 of them, and then ultimately it will go to the second. So it will be an overhead. So this subquery will reduce your overhead over here. Now let us take a look at the tip number 5, that is use the limit and the offset very correctly. Now let us, we already looked into, if we are trying to use this SQL select clause without any conditions and in all the columns, then it is going to be a bad SQL query. So instead of that, let's say you want this particular query, okay? So instead of this, let's say you want all the column is your mandatory requirement. So no harm in that, but what you have to do is that you have to order them by, let's say you are ordering by the age over here, okay, and then you can actually have the descending. Okay, so this is, let's say I'm taking the descending, and then actually I can limit, let's say I want to limit only 20 rows of that. So in that case, let's say if I'm trying to run this, so what will having only those 20 rows will be there. So here the limit, the columns are very limited. Let's say I'm trying to limit here 2 of them only. Now you see here, I am only returning that specific data, even though I am trying to retrieve every column of this, but I am only restricting to making use of those particular specific columns. That too on my conditions of order by, I can apply group by, apply having, and etc. All of them I can conditions I can apply here, and I only try to select only those rows. So this is one of the better way to do that. Also one other thing actually you can do here is that you can make use of the paginations with the offset. So here whatever you have limited, that limits you have set here, you can actually offset the value. Let's say it is 1 over here, it is 2 over here. So you can actually set the offset value also here. Okay, so this is going to be increase your performance. Also it is going to take a less load or when you're trying to load the data from the database. Now, this is all the 5 tips which we have discussed. Let me give you one bonus tip over here. The bonus tip is, that is, format and comment your SQL so that the person who is going to modify it or is going to work on it and maintaining your SQLs is going to help understand what exactly this query is written for and what is the purpose of that. So if you have written some query let's say what you can do, you can add some SQL comment over here like this. So this query is for fetching a limited number of rows from customer table in descending order of age. So in this way you can maintain your comments, your formatted SQL query, so that it looks good as well, and also everybody is trying to touch or modify that particular whenever there is a requirement changes over here. So he knows exactly where exactly it is he has to modify. Also, it will be very clear for him also to maintain that this is how it should be maintained up. So always write those particular in a structure. Now you see, I've not written everything in this one particular row over here. So this is one bad way of writing it. I could have written this in this particular way also, but this is one of the bad way to write it. So instead of this, you write it in every other next row, format it properly, and then you can clearly understand where to make this particular changes. So this is one better way. Why it is going to matter? Because it is easier for others to read it in the future. Also, if you want to debug something and you want to optimize your query later, so this will be very very handy for you to do that. So I hope I was able to explain you the all the important ways to write a better query. So the writing SQL query is half a part of an art and also a half part of the science. So these tips will help you write the faster, cleaner, and the more efficient SQL query. So start writing it today. If this has helped you, hit the like button. Also subscribe and drop your worst SQL query, that mistake you have done, in the comment section. I will help you fix that as well. So please continue to watch my other playlist, other videos in this channel, so that it will help you to prepare your Java, Spring Boot, microservices, SQL, and lot of interview questions. So please check out my channel. Thank you for watching.